Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Infinite Quality Podcast. We're on episode 42. If you guys are keeping track, that means we've done this 42 times. So,
Whoa. Whoa.
congratulations, us, right?
Whoa.
This week, you know what? I should always try to preempt this with a little bit more of like a soft intro because sometimes the YouTube stream doesn't start right away. It did start, so we're good, but oh, I'm hearing the echo again. What is that? Now I'm hearing it again. What? It's one of you guys.
It's not me.
It's seriously one of you guys. I don't know who it is. This is so crazy.
It's not me.
Why every time I start the recording? Okay, well,
Is it the recording?
Maybe it's the recording.
it can't be. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if it only shows up when the recording is happening, right?
Oh, maybe it's because I talk at like a much louder volume when we actually start going, and then I've got my podcasting voice on.
So was it Sunny all along? Was Sunny the culprit?
It's not me. It's coming from Discord. It's 100%. Okay, we'll figure it out someday. Okay, so this week we wanted to.
I'm not seeing anyone light up. Sorry.
No, but I'm not hearing it all. I'm not hearing it all the time either. It's not like a constant thing. It's like it's very faint.
Is the echo in the room with us right now?
No.
Like.
No.
I think it's all in your head, Sonny. I
It's
think you're
not.
just. You're
I
just
can prove it.
hearing
I can
things.
scientifically prove.
Wait,
prove
but
it.
okay, is it happening now?
It only happens when I talk for some reason.
Okay, so it has to be you then.
It is me, but I don't know where it's coming from.
I got drugs for that.
No, it doesn't work that way. Nothing works that way.
So today's topic is technical difficulties.
It's my voice bleeding back through one of your guys' mics. All right.
I
Well,
guess.
we all have headphones in. How could that be?
Well, because like this, okay? You guys go ahead and talk. What do you talk?
Okay.
Can you hear yourself?
I wasn't expecting to be put in the situation.
Oh wait, I have echo cancellation on. It's not gonna work.
Oh no, I froze. Why did I freeze?
Wow, scuffed podcast to start with.
Scuffed podcast, yeah.
Okay. You know what? I love that we just like every podcast we're just slightly.
Oh God!
Whoa.
Is that not an echo?
I mean, that is, but
Okay. I
mean,
that's,
no.
we don't
This
hear that
is
normally.
this is how it could be happening, right? You all have a channel on your soundboard for Discord, correct?
Correct.
What channel? Look at the channel that changes the volume on Discord.
I'm looking at it.
There's a little red knob, right? Or two.
Mhm.
Some of you have one, some of you have two,
Correct.
right? Meets put
I
your
have no
put your
idea
hand.
which one's Discord.
You don't know which turn
No, I have
them,
no idea.
turn them up and down until you don't hear us
I
anymore.
know what this is.
Check. Test 1, 2. Is
This
it
is
that?
it.
Okay.
I found it.
Okay.
It's first try.
There's a little red knob called aux on your soundboard.
The
Do you see it?
knob.
Or mon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turn it up and then turn it all the way down. Okay. See,
Oh God! Oh God!
That's where an echo can come from. No, there is. You guys can't hear it on Twitch because you probably have the stream turned down a bunch. It's super quiet, but it is there. I've checked the recordings. Yeah, if it's turned up. What happens is that little knob, if it gets dusty, will create a connection and send just the slightest amount of volume through over to the other channels. Through to Discord. That's your Discord output. But anyway, hopefully that fixed it and we'll never hear an echo ever again. It could have just been
Hopefully.
a speck of dust. All right. So yeah, if you guys have a soundboard, there's crazy things can happen with the soundboard. We've all got. I'm still hearing it. I just heard it. Yeah, it's super subtle, but it's fine.
It's
fine.
it just exists to drive Sonny
me
crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. It is. Like I originally thought it was coming from each of the streams. Like I have the streams open or something, and it was coming from there, but they're all muted, so it can't be that. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe we need to use a different program other than Discord.
Oh,
for this.
there's a podcast topic. Should we ditch Discord?
Do you guys? Yeah, there is a podcast.
The co-streaming thing on Twitch doesn't work well enough for
No, it's
poor
terrible.
people, right? Yeah.
Pickles and I tried it.
Yeah, it's
And
not very intuitive.
It's
when,
really
when
bad.
when you say terrible, how crappy are we talking here?
It has,
It's like Discord with 14 extra steps.
yeah, it's not easy to make work. And did you one of you guys just beep?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was on purpose.
That one
I'm
was
turning
No,
my
no,
that
AC
was
no.
off.
me. That was
Pickles,
definitely.
you have to say
on me.
no. We're supposed to
Oh.
convince
You-
Sonny that he's losing his mind.
This is gaslighting 101.
Yeah, come on. You didn't pick
No,
up
that
the
was
memo?
I was turning on my AC actually because it's hot in here. That's
Oh, that
the
was
thing.
you?
Did one of
That
you
was me.
guys beep?
I swear I heard it from like that side of my house.
We're all just
slow
this would be like an April Fool's like stream where we just screw
Yeah,
with
just
each
like
other the whole
beeps and
time.
clicks and stuff. Yeah.
All right, so the topic for today, for real, is not how bad Guest Star is, but it is very bad. If you don't believe me, go try it.
Can that be the topic? I haven't tried it yet, but I'm
it
hearing
can't
nothing
actually-
Not
but
much of a
terrible things.
topic.
It's not much of a topic, but it does fit into our topic for today, because the topic for today is time management and not wasting time, like easy pitfalls that streamers fall into, right?
So, biggest pitfall is don't use guest star. Got it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is one of them. Like, trying to get Guest Star to work for your stream may be just like a huge waste of time when Discord exists, right?
True.
So, like, what are some of the things you guys feel like personally you've like done and wasted a bunch of time messing with things for your stream? Is there anything you guys like invested a whole bunch of time in and turned out to be a bad idea and you never do it again, kind of thing?
I would say from experience, don't make your alerts too complex, because you'll spend hours trying to make some funny alert that you had in your head, and you'll try to work out the the little jank when it comes to alerts, because we all know alerts are always a little bit janky. Trust me, let it be janky. People like that more, and they don't notice if you cut the sound file perfect or make the little GIF exactly what it needs to be. It's just go with your idea and run with it. Don't bother to over polish. That's basically that's my one recommendation.
Yep, that's a good
There is
place
such
to
a
start.
thing as too much polish.
That's a good place to start. Okay. Anyone else? I want all your experiences. Did anybody else do anything that they feel like was a giant waste of time?
Researching the perfect game to play.
Okay.
Mm.
So, like, how much time did you waste doing that?
I mean, back when I cared, too much. Like I would, I'd spend a lot of time.
Back
looking
when I cared. What does that mean?
I'm unhinged now. It's fine. I'm embracing it. I think back maybe about 2 years ago. It was like between 6 months and a year after I started streaming. I spent a lot of time like really trying to learn the statistics of like finagling the system, and I spent a lot of time.
So for
evaluating my
discoverability
peer-
specifically, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time looking at like Sellinome, which is a good resource. Don't get me wrong. Actually, I haven't used it recently, but looking at like Sellinome and looking at categories and looking at peer groups, and just like I spent so much time just pondering and thinking about like the perfect, like trying to pick the perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I probably maybe 5 viewers, right? Like the differential between like a game that in general is going to fit your community and your size versus like actually like trying to statistically analyze, like try to figure it out, the perfect game. Just it kind of took some of the spontaneity and joy out of it. So that would be my vote.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a huge waste of time in general because,
Thanks.
yeah. Well, there's a few reasons. There's like, I don't think there is someone who's an expert on that kind of data, or like, and we don't really know what to do with the data when you look at it. We don't. There's no. It's not like the data has meaning that we can attribute to it, and then so you want to attribute meaning to the data you are seeing and thinking, oh well, I got to go stream this or I got to go stream that. But it's like so random. Like you could have two streamers doing the exact same thing, and one of them sees success and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, and like I'm such a scientific person, right? I want there to be like data and an algorithm and like a a computing kind of
A
scenario
game almost.
where
A game, as it were.
Gaming the system.
yeah, yeah.
want
I
a
want to make
system.
Streaming a game.
Yeah, we don't know.
Inception.
We just don't know what it is, and there's just too much data to look at.
I think for what it is for me is I agree, but like the corollary to it, the little asterisk is like it's okay to do research, but at the same time, it's like I think it's the difference between finding the perfect game and finding a good enough game to stream. If that makes any sense, because the thing is, if you're gonna like spend all that time looking for the perfect game, but then you don't enjoy that game as much as maybe another game that's not as good. I would go with the not as good option, because if you're enjoying it, if you're having fun with a game, that's gonna show through on stream way more than if you're forcing yourself to play a game that maybe you just kind of like, but it's better for numbers.
Yeah,
You know
this
what
is
I
a
mean?
good point. Like, there's something really valuable about like your stream being something pleasant, right? Like, there's something really
Yeah.
valuable about. I guess it's kind of like if you see a street performer and they look like they're having a good time and they look like they're enjoying what they're doing, they're putting on like a high
show.
energy, good performance. That counts for a lot, and I think that counts for a lot in streaming too. But on the flip side, there is kind of like a exposure thing that you need to keep in mind. Like, you obviously streaming at the bottom of Fortnite category is going to be a lot harder for
Is
people.
Fortnite still huge?
It's,
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Fortnite is gigantic. So
Freaking Fortnite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
know, and
play
that's
it
the-
after this podcast.
Well,
on
the other piece of that,
stream.
to piggyback off of like trying to pick the perfect game, because there's evergreen games for sure, is when new games release, and this kind of speaks to Artie's comment. When new games release, the other piece that I kind of struggle with is like timing after a new game release, right? And I think I spend too much time humming and hawing sometimes about like, when should I play it? When is the sweet spot when, the big people have kind of like blew through the game, but like people are still interested in it, and like it's a good thing to think about, but putting so much time and effort into like trying to figure out if there's a special little, magical number or algorithm to determine the best time to do that, not worth it.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay,
Unless
so
you're like really a stats person, if you're like into baseball and you want to try to stats out like gameplay, that's
Moneyball,
awesome.
yeah.
But
yeah. I think there's something to be said for both of those. So the first two things we can kind of dig into is wasting your time. I think the alerts thing is a very specific example, but I think you can actually generalize that out a bit. I think you can waste a bunch of time over preparing for streaming in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Setting up, thinking you need to have your, this is kind of an easy one and obvious. I think a lot of people bring this up when talking about this topic, trying to make sure you have the perfect alerts. Every alert is set up, every bit, every little, tip number that could possibly come in, like, 69 cents, $69, having a special crazy alert for everything. Like, that stuff. Now, the thing on the flip side here is you should also consider if you love doing that stuff.
Yep.
Like, if that's the part that is fulfilling for you, is like creating the stream and like setting up all that stuff, then do it. Right? Then dig in and do all that stuff, because I think the main focus of streaming in the first place should be like the enjoyment of the hobby. And
Right.
there's things that people enjoy about streaming that are actually not streaming. But if the thing that you care about most is being live, and you're spending all this time like making sure everything's perfect, spending hundreds of dollars on the top microphone and, top sound, you got to buy the crazy expensive sound thing and, all of that stuff. A lot of that stuff is just not streaming. And it can end up being a huge waste of time. How many streamers do we know that actually like built like an entire stream room and went all crazy, and then they just stopped streaming because nobody watched.
Yeah, no, that's over preparing is definitely a thing. And a lot of it's also like, we've spoken to this before to this specific issue where people come into a stream and they have an idea, and we've all known this person, right? We've all known people like this where they come in and they have an idea, and their idea is so rigid, so
Like Cannabis Man.
inflexible. Like you just
that
feel like
right?
this is your entire personality,
Cannabis
right?
Man.
And or whatever, that's not cannabis, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever the thing that they think is their identity, right? And it's at some point you got to realize like some of that stuff is fine to prepare ahead of time, but some of that stuff also just needs to happen organically. Like you need to like kind of figure out who you are while you're streaming, because there's no way you're gonna figure all that out beforehand. What's the expression? No plan survives the field, or whatever. Like things are
I've
always
never
gonna.
heard that expression. What?
I'm pretty sure it's an expression.
He's European. Ignore
He
him.
makes.
Listen,
Oh
okay.
yeah, okay. Wait, I am too.
Aren't we? I thought you were just American.
Me?
American.
No, I'm first generation. My parents
There you go.
both
Look, see. So look, I got backup in chat. The people know what's up. People know what's up.
No plan survives contact with the enemy.
That's okay. Close enough.
Plan. It's the same thing.
Yeah. But yeah. That's my point.
That's the whole thing?
Just in case. I got nothing else. That's it. Bye,
I
everybody.
got
Good night.
distracted. I don't know what you said.
No, but I'm saying over planning ahead of time versus having or developing your identity organically is the gist of it, right? Having alerts and stuff ready to go on your first stream is cool, but then having in jokes and things in chat that like you can reference to as they happen, right? And then you make them alerts later and stuff.
There's like
that's better.
There's
in
like
my opinion,
this
than,
organic nature to the stream that needs to kind of evolve that stuff, and you can't do that stuff offline. You have to be with like those inside jokes have to be created with your community and the people that come in. So I don't know, Pickles, did you have anything that you felt like was a giant waste of time that you've done, specific or general?
I mean, we were kind of talking about it in the chat, like archiving VODs and stuff. That's something I used to do for a while. And then I...
Yeah, the highlight thing. I stopped doing that for the podcast, too.
Yeah.
Look at that. We're
I'm never
learning,
going to do anything with them. They're all like old and low quality. Like, there's not
Old
really
and
any
shitty.
point in still having those, honestly.
Yep. Okay. That's a good one.
That is such a hard thing because there's a dichotomy to that, right? Because part of it is like, if you think about other platforms, right, and you want to go into TikTok or YouTube or whatever, there's a space that suggests that kind of reposting and repurposing material that pre-exists has some utility. But I don't know if the return on investment of downloading the VOD and reviewing it and that kind of stuff is really worth it. Because I've posted like one highlight, and that was more just for me because I was like, I did this and I wanted to make sure it's on the internet forever. But yeah, it's hard to justify some of the time spent just saving everything and the space and the effort to save stuff that, like, honestly, come on, 50% of our streams are kind of just boring trash, right? It's true. It's true. Like half the time if you're fighting a boss, you're just like trying to focus on the boss. Like, it's not that exciting.
Tonight.
No one's interesting 100% of the time, right?
No, but that's absolutely true. Most streams, unless you're like some sort of streaming god, most streams are moments of utter boredom punctuated by moments of sheer chaos, right? Like, for example, if you're a speedrunner, right, 90% of that speedrun is going to be you mechanically doing the same thing that you've done 1,000 times, and then there's that payoff in the end when you get a new PB or whatever, right? That's the interesting part. That's the bit people want to see.
I mean,
right?
Right.
For
People
the
just
most
want to
part.
be present for that moment.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. I would.
There's always going to be that one guy who's super excited throughout the whole thing because he just
Well,
loves speedrunning so much.
yeah.
There's always going to be that guy, but
Yeah, I think there
the
is.
majority of your audience.
Yeah. I think there's a couple. There are people that just enjoy watching speedrunning because mechanically it's very interesting to watch, like, people be consistent in their run trying to get through a section or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
I'm sure. Or let's take speedrunning out of it. Like for example, Dark Souls is a good one, right? Dark Souls, traditionally a tough game that people get stuck on a lot,
Is
right?
it?
People,
It's not,
well,
is it?
listen,
No.
it has that reputation, right? Just because we're all god gamers.
Yeah, I mean, speak for yourself, my good friend.
Yeah. Listen,
I think
no,
Legend
so, like,
of Zelda. I think Breath of the Wild's harder than Dark
right,
Souls.
listen, Breath of the Wild is a Souls-like, right? So that's what people say. No, but like,
there's some hard parts in Breath of the Wild.
as much as people love watching people struggle through a video game, really what they're there for then is for that person to overcome that and finish the video game
Well-
and have that moment of elation, right? It's not just there's some people who just love the suffering. I agree, but
Yeah, I was gonna say counter argument. It tends to get more entertaining the more unhinged it gets as you get frustrated with the game.
but there's
Right.
definitely a limit,
Got
right?
a
If
lot,
you get
yeah.
too frustrated,
Oh.
if you're
depends.
too angry, that turns people off too, because nobody wants to watch somebody being extremely angry on camera. I'm again.
Nobody?
There's a few people, but the majority don't.
Unless you know how to be really
Let's not
angry
shame them.
in an entertaining way.
Unless you know how to be angry in an entertaining fashion, which
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone be angry in an entertaining fashion. So
Jared's pretty good at it. You
listen,
can't
there's a
tell that
difference-
he's angry.
There's a difference between frustrated and angry.
Jared, yeah, it's true. There's people who are like stoic. And they're angry, but you can't really tell.
But I'm
it's
saying
being channeled.
there's people who get frustrated and curse at the game versus people who break their controllers. Why would I want to watch somebody smash their equipment because they've gotten so angry at a video game, right?
Yeah, that's a
There's-
YouTube clip or a short or something that you.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't need that on stream. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, looking at other giant wastes of time, and none of us have done this, but there is one that I think we can all speak to a little bit, because it should be quite obvious why none of us did this. This is also a giant waste of money. Stream coaches. Stream coaches. We haven't talked about those in a while.
Oh, do we really need to go there?
I
Can
think
we
so.
just,
I think
like-
so. I think more people
What's
people
the
don't
point?
listen to
No.
every episode of the podcast. So
Just need the reminder, you know?
yeah.
Your daily reminder that stream coaches are fraud.
Stream
They're pyramid
coaches.
scheme coaches.
I do think there's a value in having people in your life that are around you that can help you figure out things and just kind of be a sounding board, like creative people, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to say hire someone that helps you figure out things, but it's the people who have the snake oil that are
Full disclosure.
yeah, because I kind of do that. I help
Sonny
that
does
people.
that.
Right. But I don't tell people how to make their stream successful. I tell them how to have a nice make their computer run well, and
Sunny gives you the tools to be successful, whereas
Yeah,
most stream coaches try to sell you a formula, and formulas don't work.
Yeah, I don't know
as
if-
we've all
As we
established.
just talked about, yeah.
yeah.
Algorithms don't work on Twitch. They
this is-
just don't. So.
Yeah, I'm more like Geek Squad, for your stream than like the guy who's gonna be like, okay, if you do 15 push-ups, you're gonna get this kind of muscle as an analogy for your stream. And a lot of these, and even that isn't a good analogy because that will give you certain kind of muscles. A lot of these stream coaches have strategies that sound like they work. It's snake oil. And they'll have 100 people go through their strategy, and one person will take off, and they'll go on Twitter and be like, look, we got one partnered. And it's like, well, what about the other 99 people that gave you $500 that still are at 0 viewers, right?
Well, yeah, and it's not even that. It's that at this point, there's a plethora of information and availability that is free of charge for accessing that kind of stuff. You still have to be a self-starter. You still have to do the thing. And to argue, though, I feel like I'm one of these people a little bit, but some people do need kind of someone that they feel accountable to
Right.
get them moving in the right direction. Like, I do better if I have a personal trainer. right? I do better in like
Right.
an exercise class or something like that versus if I was just like, oh, I need to go exercise, right?
Right.
Because since we were using the gym analogy,
No, it's
so,
true.
I mean,
Like,
there is a place for it,
Yeah.
but you really got to watch out for the like you're guaranteed blah 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 blah. I do think there's people who are stream coaches that are legitimately invested
Yeah.
in helping you and helping you be accountable for positive change, but
Well, it's
that's
also I
not
think
everybody.
it's a difference of quantity or
Sure.
something
Yeah.
you can quantify. Like, right, if a personal trainer, for example, right, a coach in a gym, right, can confidently tell you like, hey, if you do this exercise, you're working out this muscle, right?
Right, yeah.
That's not
So one
that's
to
not like
one.
one of those obtuse things that you have to think about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think the better analogy would be somebody who tries to go to a gym and then you have some guy who goes, hey, if you take this magic pill, it'll bust
Right.
your fat for good.
Right.
That's the equivalency here.
Right.
The equivalency
I mean,
is somebody
to
who's
some degree,
promising you a shortcut.
Well, that's the thing, right? I don't. I think we'd be short-sighted to place every sort of stream coaching scenario into the same bucket. I 100% agree. I
Yeah.
think most of those like buy my book and follow my
Yeah,
like
my
12-step
ebook. Yeah,
program
yeah.
for success. Absolutely. But I do think that although I would encourage them not to use the term stream coach at this point, I do think that there are companies slash individuals that are genuinely invested in helping people become motivated and accountable and providing guidance for their success. And I
Yeah.
almost think, Sonny, you don't do as much of like the like what kind of content.
Well, not
Of
for you
course.
guys.
No, no.
Some-
But like
some people
but
though.
you offer a similar kind of service, right?
I
Like,
do.
it would not be an inappropriate term to kind of bucket you adjacent to the stream coach kind of scenario.
Well,
Right?
Coach
yeah.
adjacent.
Yeah, like you're in parallel with a stream coach, but it's the type of coaching that is the issue, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for someone that's going to help you gain confidence or give you advice or direction to help improve your confidence in speaking or being entertaining or working on identifying good color schemes or whatever, like that can be a really good
Yeah.
resource. It's differentiating the like I'm just going to try to hammer in the same shape into the wrong hole versus I'm individualizing and like I genuinely want to try to help you feel motivated and accountable to make yourself better.
Well, it's also
So I just want to make that distinction because I don't think saying oh stream coaches across the board. I don't think that that's appropriate.
I think I agree, but I think the biggest thing is like look for people who are providing info that is extremely like just too general, right? Because that's really where you get into the problem with stream coaches is when
Absolutely.
somebody is just trying to sell you a product, right? Buy my $500 book
Right.
for streaming. Like, and there's no way that a book that somebody wrote about streaming can apply to everybody. That's just it's impossible, right? Like what works for one person doesn't work for another person. There has to be some level of like individualized advice and analysis and critique that goes into it before somebody can give you that kind of advice and have it mean anything. Otherwise, it's like a horoscope, right? It's so general and so
Yeah.
broad that it has to fit
Absolutely.
everyone. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and it's a horoscope that you're paying $500
I do
for.
agree with you, Meets. There is like kind of a huge difference between like these different kinds of coaches. I think from the outset, though, most people should not spend their time seeking out this kind of stuff until they actually need specific kind of help.
Although, as somebody in chat points out, value is subjective. So honestly, like that's the thing, right? If
True.
paying $500 for one of these services lets you be a better streamer, right? Even if it's like a placebo effect, right? Where you take this and
True.
you discover something about you that's true, then then maybe it is worth it for you, right? But like in general, though, I feel like if you have a product that is so generalized that it's marketed as, hey, anyone can do this, that's
Sure.
kind of where you have
Yeah.
to not necessarily discard it out of hand, but I'm saying analyze it. Like definitely
Yeah.
look at it before you
Yeah,
commit.
you want to look at the intrinsic value to you as an individual and like how the service or product or guidance leads you towards what your personal goals are, right?
Yeah.
So an example I can think of is education, like higher education, right? Some people want to take college level courses because they want to learn something or get better at something. Like maybe you get an associate's degree in, I don't know, like tadpole watching, right? Like you're not getting a job, and hopefully that person understands
What a
that
degree.
might not be like, a direct, line to getting a job, but if it has intrinsic value to that person,
Sure.
if they assign like this helped me become something that I loved frogs and I wanted to learn about tadpoles,
Yeah.
and this was the best way to do that. Absolutely. My encouragement would be to do your research, because there are people that are going to take advantage of someone's enthusiasm
Yeah.
and their
Yep,
their
exactly.
resources.
And Ballistic Mouse's point in the chat is true. Two things can be true at the same time. Like, go capitalism or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
there's two versions of me, right? There's one version of me
There's
that's
two
like,
wolves inside you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry.
One is a capitalist, the other is a capitalist.
other one-
You're a capitalist.
yeah, yeah. There's a version of me that agrees that, like, yeah, okay, like if you can go out there and get the bag, and like, good for you. But then, like, because this podcast is geared towards an audience of people like that are more vulnerable to that kind of activity, we're erring on the side of saying, protecting those people from people just trying to get the bag and aren't actually trying to, in the end, do anything that's actually valuable to the streamer. Sure, like, good for them. They know how to do marketing. They're getting their money. Like, I can cheer that person on while at the same time taking my friends and being like, you probably shouldn't go buy that, right?
Yeah, like ask us, right? Join Infinite Quality. Ask the group. Try to find people who can give you honest and thoughtful guidance about that kind of stuff.
And
you
even
know?
Yeah.
honestly, even if you're apprehensive about doing that, like, just talk to your fellow streamers. Like, make friends in the streaming community. Talk to streamers. Most streamers are more than willing to talk about streaming. Like, that's the nature of it, right? Most people are more than willing to tell you all about their stream if given a chance. So,
I don't know.
uh,
The Ballistic Mouse is saying that protecting people from themselves is frustrating, but I think we shouldn't just allow people to just be ignorant. I think we should at least speak up and try to advise people.
Yeah, we should disseminate the information. They can do with what they please, of course.
If you're going to get taken advantage of because you have all the wrong information, that's fine. But, you should also try and have more.
And I think
more.
there's obvious, like, hucksters, right? Sometimes you run across some people who are in this industry who are very obviously, like, preying on people who have, who don't have experience, right? And somebody with experience can see it and go, hey, this is actually counterintuitive. This is actually harmful. Here's why you shouldn't pay somebody to tell you advice that is directly counterintuitive to what you're doing, right? Like, there are
Yeah.
those people that exist as well, right? So it's not just like, and like Meat said, it's not a blanket, right? You can't just say that every stream coach is bad, but at the same time, you also can't say that every stream coach has intrinsic value.
Yeah.
It's analyzing the method,
Yeah.
and then making your decision based on that. The issue, though, is most streaming coaches will not reveal the method to you until you pay the money,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, that makes
that's
sense.
that you have to make money. That's how
Yeah.
that's how it works, right?
That's how it
So
works.
again, it's always a balance.
Yeah.
It's always a balance, and doing your own research and not taking even what we tell you. Don't take anything I say at face value. Take what I say, analyze it, think about whether or not it applies to you, do your research, and then decide whether or not Uncle Snazzy was right.
You
That's
said-
right. Uncle Snazzy usually is right, though.
But I've been hella wrong before too. Like like it's no one's perfect. So
You
That's
said the
true.
word of the day.
Stop the
Hella?
cap.
What? What I also was gonna say is different levels of experience, and I think we've had these points in the past a little bit too. But for someone like myself, because the only person I can talk most honestly and intuitively about is of course myself. So I'm going to do it, but I don't personally feel, and I think it's corroborated, that I need like someone to help me with public speaking or to help me with that type of entertainment part, because that comes fairly naturally to me. However, setting up my dang stream, I need all the help I can get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The technology part is the area that I need that support.
It hasn't gotten
And-
easier either. It's just gotten more
I thought you were going to
confusing.
say, and you haven't gotten any better either.
No,
Like,
no,
wow,
no.
cool.
You've
thanks.
gotten a lot.
Wow.
No, you've gotten
Wow.
a lot better.
Wow.
A lot better. A lot better.
But so I think part of it too is almost like do the nerdy thing and create a Venn diagram, right? Of like, what are my strengths? What are things that I can kind of get by with? And what are my areas that I really need maybe some support with? Maybe you're an expert editor that can like make stuff and like, like do all the technology stuff, but you're just real camera shy, right?
Yeah.
So who's a good resource for that? It could be someone even outside of the streaming world, right? There's lots of coaches that help with voice control, that help with, and we've kind of talked a little bit about improv and like say what you will about improv, but
Improv.
No, improv coaches are a thing.
Spirit fingers.
People who teach improv are a thing. Like it's
Yeah.
And again, but
Yes,
that
and.
same industry though, there are some people who are really good at that and whose services are worth paying money, and then people who are just terrible at it and you learn
Absolutely.
nothing. So
Absolutely. So it's kind of knowing what you need out of an outside resource and being able to have the confidence to vet that resource appropriately. Realizing that the term stream coach is kind of it's not a bad word necessarily, but it's something that if someone refers to themselves as a stream coach, that should be a little bit of a flag that you want to investigate, like their credibility a bit more deeply.
You know,
because
and
it
the
has been
credibility isn't
associated with
tied
so much
to-
negativity. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not tied to how well they have done for themselves either.
Right.
yep.
I think
Absolutely.
another type of stream coach that a lot of people need is therapy.
Amen to that
A
part.
therapist is just a life coach if you think about it.
Yeah.
No, it's a therapists are problem solvers.
I do
Absolutely.
think though a lot of streamers like need to need mental health care. Mental health care.
Everyone can benefit from
Yeah.
therapy. You
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I are on the same
Yeah.
boat there.
Yeah.
Good luck affording it though.
True. Well, a lot of streamers probably run around the threshold of free healthcare income. So
yeah.
Wow, Sonny, what nice things do you have to say about streamers?
Wow. Imagine saying things about streamers.
am I wrong? Is that
Wow.
wrong?
I mean, it depends on.
I don't know. I can't speak to that, but wow, Sonny, can we like cut that part out? Jeebers creepers.
Am I
Oh.
wrong?
I mean, you are.
I am?
Yeah, I think
Not
you are.
everyone's circumstances are different. It's
Yeah.
it's a range and a mix. So I got plenty of health care. I don't know what you're talking about.
I got all the health care I could ask
Yeah.
for. No, I'm not a full-time
Well,
streamer.
so will they. You know, what the thing I
Well-
said was not about not healthcare.
So, announcement, everyone. We're looking for new podcast hosts. A plug on Infinite Quality Live.
Streaming doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No,
I'm
I
just-
know what you're
It's
insinuating.
a joke
I think
about
you
how
chose your
little
words
streamers
kinda
make.
Silly.
Honestly,
That- I
though,
mean,
do
to be fair,
streamers
though-
make big money? Do the 99%?
Some of them do, though.
Okay,
I
but
think
that's
what you're
1% of the platform. I'm talking about
Now we're getting into the good stuff here. This is the discussion I actually came here for.
No.
The most common pitfall as a streamer is not making money.
I don't think anybody in this chat, and yeah, that's true, right? I don't think anybody in the chat or anybody on the stream could have afforded healthcare off of their stream income.
I mean,
Is that not
but
a
it
fair
depends
point?
on okay, so there's a lot of pieces to that, and I'm just feeling very adversarial today, so I apologize for that. There's a lot of pieces to that, because if so say I decided to take the plunge, if you will, and move into a more thoughtful, structured, full-time streaming, it could be very well possible that I could afford plenty of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is
Sure.
like how willing you are to
I don't know
take
any
that
streamers
risk.
personally. Like I'm not friends
well,
with any streamers that don't need assistance.
but that doesn't mean that they don't
But
exist.
that doesn't mean
though,
they
right?
don't exist.
I'm not
but
saying
that also
that.
doesn't mean
I'm
that
not
you're not
saying that.
using it as a supplemental income too.
I'm saying
right?
it's uncommon.
Sure, but it's uncommon for people to be like cashiers at a grocery store and not need supplemental income. You know, like.
Also true. Also, yeah, very good point. That's same
but
point
the way
I'm making.
the way it was posed kind of disparagingly is what I kind of took it.
No,
as.
it's just realistic. I'm
Right.
being realistic about the situation. If
Well,
you're going to stream,
the thing is, it's sort of like missing the forest for the trees, right? It's like individual circumstances aside, right? Streaming can be profitable in numerous ways if done correctly. But it's the analysis there isn't necessarily that you're going to profit just off the stream, right? If you're looking at just the stream income, you'd probably be correct in saying like, oh yeah, most people wouldn't be able to afford, whatever the threshold that you want to set from just your streaming income. But smart streamers also diversify. They find other work. For example, the biggest example we can think of all here is Jared, right? Finds voice work, finds work for magazines, finds works for all this other stuff that's related to streaming that helps create income and content and his brand, if
Right.
you will,
And
Yeah,
without just
absolutely.
being part
it
of
also
the stream.
took
right?
him many years to get to the point where that was.
Well,
Right,
and that's
but
going
it
to be
takes
true for most people. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
develop a career over multiple
Yeah.
years. Just because like one is going to university for 6 years and the other one is like learning how to stream and develop a brand over 6 years, there's not a difference there necessarily at the end of the day, right? I mean, if you in this type of
you guys aren't disagreeing with me. You're just nitpicking
Well,
and
no, I'm
being
saying because like
specific.
it's when you're part of the entertainment industry, right? It always takes there's always some amount of time that it takes to set up that kind of thing if you want it to be your career, right?
Of course it does. Yeah.
There's very few
Yeah.
people who come out of nowhere and just make it in this space. And by this space, I mean the entertainment industry as a broad.
My
right?
my point was, if you go pick a random stream on Twitch, they're probably not paying for their health care with their Twitch income.
No, again, I disagree with you because you're assuming that everyone who's randomly streaming on Twitch is using this as their primary income, which
No,
that's
not.
yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Most
I'm
people.
saying from the Twitch income itself. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
My point is that the income from streaming is pretty low for the most part for most streamers. So you would need other, sources of
Okay.
income.
okay,
Fair,
so
but
you're saying
it's
Twitch
still...
isn't paying for their health care. That's a
That,
different
yeah,
statement.
that was my
I
point.
mean
from
that
the
I agree
beginning.
because it's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I mean, to your point, I mean, yes, Twitch could pay its creators better. The 50-50 split we all know is kind of ridiculous compared to what other platforms pay their creators. So, like, you have a point in that sense, but I think you can't just say like, oh, no one's making money or off streaming, right? Like that's just there are people who make money off streaming, but it's again, most people
I get a paycheck
made
every month.
yeah. Like it's all about the individual and their circumstances, and some people who make it in the streaming community, you could argue whether or not they deserve to be there, and then there's definitely people who deserve to be there that don't make it because again, the algorithm's a crapshoot. And
But I mean, who decides who deserves and who doesn't, right?
well, and that's what I'm saying. That's completely subjective. There's no way to quantify that. Which is again, when it comes to the entertainment industry, it's so incredibly difficult to quantify these things because it's all about preference, right?
Yeah.
It's all about what people like. What one person likes, someone else will dislike.
It's funny.
and there's no one stream that everyone will enjoy.
Yeah.
You're gonna have people who like it, and you're gonna have people who don't like it, and that's just at the end of the day. You have to play to your strengths and not to necessarily the audience, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to be aware of the audience. You have to know they're there, and you have to kind of build with the knowledge that you want people to stay. But at the same time, you can't please everyone. That's just impossible. It's not going to happen. So.
Yep.
What was the original thing we were supposed to be talking about?
Pitfalls.
Streaming pitfalls.
Pitfalls.
Well, this is one of
yeah.
them. Like thinking
Yeah.
I'm gonna go stream. I made this mistake myself. I thought in 2015. I thought, if I take my wife at the time and we both go stream together, that'll be a very unique thing on Twitch. At the time, there was maybe one other huge couple streamer. There wasn't a lot of two people streams going on. I knew how to technologically make it so that you could see both of our games at the same time and like make a really interesting stream setup for two people. I have the sound equipment, the microphones, I had everything. So I was like, let's go, let's do it. We have the ability to take a couple of years and just go all in on streaming.
Sure.
So let's go in all in on streaming. we had a plan. We played music, we sang, we played games, and we streamed like nonstop for a year straight. And in the beginning, it was working really well. And the first year, we did make somewhat of an income. Um, but the idea was like we thought for sure it was gonna work, and that it didn't end up working. Right?
The best laid plans of mice and men. That's definitely a saying. I know that for
Yeah.
a fact.
Well, one of the problems was the Twitch name change thing came out, and
Well,
go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say like, but this is also one of those things where like, again, the industry and the Twitch itself being volatile as it is, yeah, it's impossible to say how exactly. You can't predict how long success will last, even if you attain success, right? So it's constantly changing. So yeah, just because something worked at one point doesn't mean it'll keep working forever, right? So
Right.
I think the onus is on the streamer to be evolving as they go because you can't be static. This kind of environment just detests being static because people get bored and move on. So
To some degree, yeah, but there is elements of where you have to be static, right?
well,
Like
yeah,
they're-
obviously.
Well, yeah,
but-
from a reliability
Like-
perspective, like people kind of want to know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
I would say less. It's about static. It's more about consistency. You could still be consistent without being static.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a tough. The whole thing is just tough. I think in general, I think it's very easy to stream like a lot and think that's gonna work, and that isn't the answer either. Just being alive for the sake of being alive. Like, do you guys feel like there's some kind of weird pressure to like be live enough?
Oh yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I'm over it.
But you did at one point.
Of course, I think
It's
that's
not
a
about being
normal
over it.
thing
I think
now.
it's.
So
I
is
want to
that
say
a-
that it exists. It's not about whether or not we're personally over it because I'm over it too. I've cut my days down a
Snazzy.
metric ton.
High
Half
Reach
five.
up.
Half five. Like, but it does exist. There is that pressure.
You did have a period of
There
time.
is that pressure. Yeah.
You had a period of time where you felt like you should be streaming a lot and stream
Absolutely.
as much as possible. So do
Absolutely.
and now that you've shifted away from that, do you feel like that was a pitfall? Specifically.
Yes and no. Yes and no. It depends on how far you take it, right? Because if you're online, if you're streaming every night, 6 or 7 hours a night, and you're burning yourself out, and you're not making any headway, then obviously, in retrospect, right, hindsight's 2020, probably a little bit of a waste of a time. But if
Okay,
you
let's talk. I
still
want to dig into that. Real
derived some fulfillment from it, and then realize like, hey, this is a better structure, then it's not a waste of time because you learned something from it and you are now applying what you learned going forward. So it's not necessarily a waste of time if it benefited you in some way.
True.
It's,
That
again,
is true.
It's that analysis of was the benefits that I
Silver
received
lining.
from doing this worth the time invested? And that's a question that only you can answer through self-reflection. No one
That's
else can answer
true.
that for you.
That's true. Okay, let's dig into this a little bit. I think one of the traps of streaming itself is it can feel like it's working when it's not. This is something I personally felt because when I was streaming with my ex and we were streaming a lot, we were growing. We had a lot of followers. We had new people coming in. We shot up like consistently. There'd be followers and there'd be donations and there'd be stuff, but we were kind of stuck at this like 15 to 20 viewers and couldn't move past that. We'd be lucky to get 20 viewers some nights and we'd be at 10 or 12, the rest of the week. And it would hover up and down a bunch, but there'd always be people following and there would always be people donating and it would always be interactive and lively. And so it always felt like it was working. But a year later, you look at it and it's in the same spot, just with like an inflated follower count.
The issue there is, I think the pitfall there in that scenario, right? In that specific scenario they're mentioning, isn't so much all the streaming that you did and all that. The pitfall there was looking at the follower count, which I think
That's
is a
one of
pitfall
them, yeah.
that is a pitfall people
Yeah.
that fall for. Because you get that little serotonin ding when you see, little
Yeah.
ad
Oh,
or
thanks
a
for the
little
follow, yeah.
alert pops up that somebody followed. But follows mean very little in the grand scheme of things, right? Obviously on Twitch you need the first 50. No, this is not a secret. This is not a
It
secret.
means a lot to me, okay? I like
No,
having
but look-
lots of followers.
But I'm saying, like, for
You like
example,
one
like
number big?
everyone likes when numbers go burr.
Vroom.
That's obviously like people love numbers go burr. But like if you look at it even just from a business perspective, right? If a company is looking for streamers, if a company is looking for streamers, right? They look at your viewer average. They don't care how many followers you have.
You just
they look
have
at
to
how
find
many
the
people
ones
come
that don't
watch
know
you.
any better.
If a company that doesn't
the
know any
bag.
better is approaching me about something, that I probably don't want to work with them, right? I want
No,
that
if they're gonna
company
give
to
me
be.
money and they don't understand,
Yeah, get
Oh,
that
and
bag.
listen,
Get
yeah,
that
get
bag.
that
if they're
bag,
gonna-
man. Get that dough.
Is that how likely is that company to give you money though? Let's be
I
real.
mean, I don't know.
Okay, let's be
there's a
fair.
lot of-
Raid Shadows Legends has given a lot of people money for doing almost nothing.
but
I-
Raid
but that's
Shadow
fine.
Legends
I've not
works.
jumped on that bandwagon,
A
but
lot
I'm
of
so
people get that
tempted.
bag.
It's
Right, but
really
look
fun.
at their numbers.
should do it.
Look at how many people play Raid Shadow Legends,
Still.
even just as a joke.
Because they're all getting paid to
Yep.
do it.
But it's working for them.
True.
You gotta
It's
embrace
working
the
for them
meme.
despite all the odds. It's working for them. They are still making money. Otherwise, they wouldn't be around.
Oh no, that's true. It's not a dig against Raid Shadow Legends not making money. I'm just saying they're paying a lot of money
but
for
they're
not a
making more.
lot of return on the.
Whatever. We're not making those decisions.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, yeah, if you're finding some sort of like, less savvy business that's trying to break into the social media world, and you're like, I've got 5,000 followers or whatever, that would, if you can flaunt that and they think it's important, go for it, in my opinion.
I like
Yeah.
what Wilson Mouse says. The only criticism that matters has to pay to the order is written on. Yeah, that's.
That's right.
Yeah, that's. I like that. No, but like, seriously, at the end of the day, a common pitfall is, yes, definitely, like, if you have, and not just like your follower count going up, if you have a stream that pops off, right? Let's say you have a night
Like
that's super
one
good.
stream.
Like, yeah, one stream,
one
you get a
stream.
bunch of followers, you get a bunch
Big
of raids,
yeah.
you get a bunch of donos, you get a whole, somebody gifts 100 subs, whatever.
Yeah, you just
Like,
triggered stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, it can give you the false impression that, oh, hey, I'm taking off.
It's working.
But it's a little bump in the road, right? Like, yeah, you could be going the right way for sure, but you can't just take one night as a snapshot. It has to be over. Your introspection has to be over a longer period of time.
Yeah, I've had people actually pop off, and the funny thing is, like, they'll be like an MMO or streamer or something, right? They almost never have viewers, or the same like 2 people always show up, and then a month later I'm seeing them like 50, 60 viewers, and then the next day 50, 60 viewers, then the next day 80, 90 viewers, then the next day 100 viewers, and you know what they
that means
did?
they're doing something right.
You know what they did the next day? Stop playing that game, and their viewership disappeared overnight.
Well, there's always that pitfall of getting into a game where there are certain games that are very prone
And
to
they're back to playing that game again.
attracting an audience
Yeah,
that
I
then
mean,
only
game
stays
lock
for
we've
that
talked
game.
about like a million
Yeah,
times.
we've talked about game lock.
The funny thing is they're
exactly.
MMO streamers, so they're just streaming. They're just gonna go from one MMO to the next, and then go back to the MMO that they quit when they had viewers
But-
in the first place.
But listen, if that works for them, if they're consistently gaining viewers, then they're
It
doing
didn't
something
work.
right.
That was my point.
Well, I'm saying if,
Yeah.
right? I'm saying if
Yeah.
if they are still gaining viewers and they're still building on their success, it doesn't really matter how many times they swap between different games. If their trajectory is upward, they're doing something right. Now, you could argue whether or not they're doing it in a efficient manner, right?
Right.
If it's that, you could
It's like
argue
a
that till
different
the
kind of
cows come
pitfall.
home. But again, for some people, it's not about the efficiency, right? Some people have time to burn and are willing to spend years making their community and their channel and their content and
Yep.
their brand. and
Well, I
they'll
mean, this
they'll
is-
come out just fine on the other end. So
Yep.
Yeah, well, remember, I feel like a handful of podcasts ago we talked about this, right? When because I also like to talk about myself. When I went to, was it a Who concert, right? And the Who was gonna play Baba O'Reilly, and before they played Baba O'Reilly, they talk about how much they
hate
hate
it,
the
yeah.
song Baba O'Reilly, but they just play it anyways because
Yeah.
that's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
that's why people
You know, if you're
go
game
to a Who
locked and it's
concert. Yeah.
working, stick with
Yeah.
it if
Yeah.
that's your goal, right? If you want
Yeah.
to be the starving artist, be the starving artist. But like getting upset because you did a thing that lots of people like and you don't want to continue to do the thing that the people like is kind of goofy. You know,
No, absolutely, and it's like it's one of those things where like game lock is real. It happens all the time.
Yep.
But you could use game lock to your advantage.
Yeah.
If you're the premier person to go to in that game, in that category, that still means something.
Yeah.
Now whether or not you want to be that, that's one of those things that you have to answer for yourself. Like, do I want to be the top World of Warcraft streamer? The answer is no, I don't. But like if I wanted to be, then I have to understand that, like, yeah, my audience comes to watch me play World of Warcraft. They're not going to stick around if I suddenly start playing Subnautica. They're not going to stick
Yeah.
around if I
You'd
suddenly
have to
start playing
be-
Magic the Gathering or something, or building Gundams. Like, that's just, they audiences come for a specific thing. And you either have to build
You have
for
to
a
be really
very
careful.
wide audience, or you have to build for a specific audience. And you have
Yeah.
to kind of
Yep.
decide which one you want to be.
Now, Snazzy, would you suggest that anytime you start a new game, you have to sit down and like be like, okay, I'm gonna stream this, and then I have to think about, do I feel comfortable streaming this as like my job, or
I wouldn't go that far. There's definitely games that like that
Yeah.
there's a game that's not evergreen. There
Well-
there are most games aren't evergreen.
Do you
But
want
if anytime you're what I'm saying is anytime you're playing a game that is constantly updated, like an MMO, right? That is constantly getting updates and it's a evolving thing on its own, then you kind of have to ask yourself like, hey, if I get big in this category, am I comfortable enough staying in this category, exclusively potentially forever?
right
But if
working
I'm
with
playing
the
like a-
company?
Yeah. But if I'm playing like a story game that I know is like once I beat the game, like there's no replay value
Yeah.
to it, obviously I'm not going to worry about being game locked into that.
Well, a different
I
question
may
is,
worry about being game locked into like similar categories of that
Yeah.
game, but the game itself is not important at that point because I know that once you're done with it, there's very little replay value. You put it down and you move on to something else. So
I think the question is, do you want to be a full-time streamer?
do you want to be a streamer?
and again, that's one of those things that only self introspection can answer. No one
Yeah.
can answer that for you. So that's something that you have to decide. So
Right. So, like, for me, I look at it a little bit like artists, right? Like an artist who only does charcoal or something, and then like they're not ever complaining that they're locked into charcoal. Like they just make art with charcoal. That's what they do, and
I
that's
don't
how
know.
they do
I've
it.
met some artists that are like, I am so
Yeah.
sick.
Eventually, they get sick of it, but like, they stuck with it long enough to get the bag, I guess, right? So that's kind of the thing.
well, I mean, we had a perfect example with musicians, right? A musician has a hit song that's so big that it
Yeah.
becomes like a core of their identity. And 30, 40 years down the road, they're still playing that one song at every show because they have to.
Yeah.
Because that's what the audience comes for, even though they started hating that song 10 years ago.
One thing
But
that
they
can-
know that their audience is going to be pissed if they don't
Yeah.
play it.
Exactly.
One thing that can be advantageous in these situations is having a second channel where you can just stream whatever you want. Because if you want to stream other things,
Oh god, that sounds like way too much work.
Oh.
But I'm for
People
sure
do
for
this,
some
though.
it's-
like people do this. They have another channel. So like there's partnered streamers. There's big partnered streamers that have a second channel that isn't monetized or anything because they're just kind of tired of it all, and they just stream over there and then they go back to their main channel.
I
Hey,
know
but listen,
YouTubers do that a lot.
If that's what works for them, more power to them.
Yeah.
If that's what gets you through the day, having a little side thing to blow off steam on, by all means. If that's what helps you, whatever helps you unwind.
So now I
this
use
stuff is
Discord
stressful
for
enough.
that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like if I'm
Discord
gonna
too.
just stream something for the heck of it, or like
Yeah.
play with my friends, like that's what I use Discord for personally. But I could see having a second Twitch, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, a lot of these streamers are top, very, very top streamers, so they can do it. They can get away with it, right? So they just don't want to sully their main channel.
Sully.
Yeah. Well, they know when they know what's going to happen to their audience, people are going to be too confused if they go stream something different.
No, and that's fair. That's a legitimate calculus to make. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Final thoughts. We're at the end here, so.
Final thoughts. Introspection, self-introspection. I've said it a bunch of times tonight. Self-analysis. Do self-critique. That's the biggest pitfall I think anyone ever makes is they don't think about what they're doing and they don't think about what they've done or where they're going, and they're just kind of, oh, I'll wing it and I'll see what happens. That's fine if you want to be that kind of streamer, but if you want to have any kind of bigger, broader success, you have to self-analyze and you have to self-critique.
Yep. True story.
But don't
True
do
fact.
that too much.
Okay. This is also true.
Don't get bogged
within
down
reason.
with.
This is also true.
So, on the other side, don't spend your entire like months, dollars, time, energy like looking up the best camera, the best game to stream, the best alerts, the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
everything. What am I gonna do? Because that's also just a bet. It's finding the balance that works well with your time management, your
Balance.
resources, your strengths, and your weaknesses.
Keyword.
Balance.
There's
That's-
that keyword
balance is
again.
the keyword.
Yep.
The count. Balance.
Yep. Got to get that balance. There is a real balance that you have to strike, and this is the hardest part for I think most people on as a streamer. If you put too much time and effort in one direction, you're going to tip the scales in the wrong way. So this is kind of what you're saying, right? Like, first of all, don't stream too much, but don't stream too little. Don't fuss too much over what you're streaming, but fuss just enough over what you're streaming to like make it work for you.
But again, if that kind of if doing that whole balancing act is something that you don't enjoy, then yeah, then you have to ask yourself whether or not entertainment in general and streaming specifically is right for you if you don't at least some level enjoy that little bit of a balancing act, right? That you have to pull that, and that's sort of very personal to you and
It is.
isn't easily quantifiable. So
I think the actual thing that we're trying to drill in is you should find a reason to do what you're doing, and it should be your reason, right? Like
fair.
I love tinkering with bots and figuring out like how to make things work on stream and how to like playing with cameras and playing with effects and trying new plugins. And somebody will message me and be like, do you know how to do this? And I'm like, okay, hold on, I'll figure it out, right? Like that's what I like doing. That's the kind of the part of streaming. Streaming is like, oh, whatever for me, but like making OBS do cool things is more of an interest for me. So like I like helping you guys. I like helping people figure out how to like make streaming go and be good more than I like being live, right? And I think that was something I didn't realize when I first started streaming. I didn't realize I liked playing with the streaming tech more than I liked the streaming itself. But streaming itself was the thing that let me learn all those cool tricks and the fun stuff.
so that
Yeah.
streaming had value.
Right. So all the streams where nobody was watching, where I was like making crazy effects, meant something because I learned the skills, right, to be able to pass that stuff on and help other people with OBS and things like that.
You're like the stagehand, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
a
I
little
was
bit.
actually gonna
I
say
know the
roadie,
entire
but okay.
script.
Yeah,
I could
like,
step
you
in
know-
for any
you move
role.
all the parts. You know how to set up the lighting. You know,
Yeah.
you have an intimate familiarity with the process, but
Yeah.
you don't necessarily
I was gonna say
revel in the
roadie,
center stage.
the stage crew, the roadies. Like they know everything you need
They
to know
know
about
every
setting up.
song. Yeah.
They know every song. They know exactly
Yeah.
what guitars need
Yeah.
to be on stage, what needs to be played.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't play it on stage. So
Having a good reason for what you're doing is, I think, the most important thing first. And like finding that will help you figure out balance. If your reason is, I want to be famous, I want to be big, I want to be rich, that might not help you actually find value in what you're doing, especially if it never works. So, although
mean,
that could
but-
be like a thing that drives you to figure out what value
Yeah.
is important to you.
long-term goals.
Yeah. Pickles, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Do what you want. Do
Do
whatever you
whatever
want.
you want.
It makes you happy.
Do
If
it.
it's
There
not
you
making
go.
happy, don't do it.
All of our arguments crystallized in a single sentence.
Do
There you
what
go.
you
Do what you
want.
want.
Be happy.
What if I don't want therapy?
Then don't go to therapy.
All right, guys. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Appreciate you all. If you're
Thank you.
new here, check out our website, infinitequality.live. We have a community Discord, which hasn't been very active recently. I think everybody's kind of doing their summer stuff. But if you guys need help, we do have a Discord. And as soon as you guys ask questions in there, hey, this is broken, this doesn't work, how do I do this? People will chime in and try to help you. It's kind of like a tech support Discord. I'm always in there helping people if they need help. Infinitequality.live in your web browser. And thanks
Take
for
it with
hanging
me.
out, everybody.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification. Follow us on all the things. Goodbye. Goodbye.
There's your ASMR for the evening.